Welcome everyone. This is Chandra from IIVS. Today's welcome to lecture number 103, talk on Vedic foundations of Indian management by Dr. Sunitha Singh Sengupta. We'll start with a small prayer. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasanna Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. A brief introduction about our topic and our speaker today. Professor Sunitha Singh Sengupta is a professor with 16 years of experience at the Faculty of Management Studies, University of Delhi. Her immediate past role was head and dean, Faculty of Management Studies at the University of Delhi. Prior to that, she worked for about 10 years as associate professor at IIM Calcutta. She is a widely traveled scholar and author of 29 books and more than 5 dozen articles in journals of repute. For a decade and a half, she has been working on integrating ancient wisdom into modern management practices. Currently, working on a 9-volume compendium on Vedic Foundation of Indian Management, sponsored by ICSSR. IIVS is promoted by Vedavyasa Bharati Trust, USCEFI, and Yoga Brotherhood of America with the blessings of our Poojya Guruji, Dr. Vedavyas. Now I'll hand over to Sengupta ji, and please post your questions on the YouTube, and we'll take them towards the end of the session. With that, Sunitha ji, please take it over.
Thank you very much. At the outset, I would like to thank Professor Srinivas and Gadadharji for giving me this opportunity. I'm extremely grateful to them. I've been working in the area of Vedic foundations of Indian management for more than a decade and a half. On 2nd February 1835, Lord Macaulay's address to the British Parliament, he says, I have traveled across the length and breadth of India and have not seen one person who is beggar, who is thief. Such a wealth I have seen in this country, such high moral values, people of such culture, that I do not think we would even conquer this country unless we break the very backbone of this nation, which is her spiritual and cultural heritage. And therefore, I propose that we replace her old and ancient education system, her culture, for if the Indians think that is foreign and English is good and greater than their own, they will lose their self-esteem, their native self-culture, and they will become what we want them, a truly dominated nation. And this happened, and this is persisting to even today. In 1835, Lord Macaulay says, and in 1836, on 18th February, the birth of the greatest spiritual guru of 18th century, Sri Ramakrishna, takes place, who says, brother, what shall I do with a mere bread-winning education? I would rather acquire that wisdom which will illumine my heart and give me satisfaction forever. I would like to reiterate that ancient Indian education system was rooted in building character based on high spiritual values. The Macaulay education gave us bread-winning education. And Sri Ramakrishna rightly points out that we need to go back to our wisdom. So therefore, back to our roots. The known economic history of India begins with Indus Valley civilization That was the first known permanent and predominant urban settlement that flourished between 28,000 BC to 18,000 BC and had an advanced and thriving economic system. According to economic historian Angus Madison in his book, The World Economy, A Millennial Perspective, published by the OECD Development Center in Paris in 2001. Remember, he is a foreign author and the foreign publication who talks about India had the largest economy in the 1st century and 11th century and in the 18th century, with a 32.9% share of the world GDP in the 1st century and 28.9% in the 1000 AD and in the 1700 AD with 24.4%. So the biggest question for scholars like us who work on Indian culture, philosophy, and management comes, what led the graph go down? Where things, went out of our hand. So therefore, to answer such questions, one of the ways to search the alternative paradigms in management and leadership is going back to our roots, ancient Indian culture and traditions. Ancient roots of corporate entity. I have written several articles which are available on academia.edu, and where I talk about that corporate life was in vogue in India since Vedic times. It was called Shreni. And in 800 BC, the cooperation of traders is as old as the time depicted to us in the Jataks. And the general consensus of opinion refers it about 7th century BC, if not earlier still. But the institution may probably be traced back to a still earlier period. So the foundations of ancient Indian management, which was called Shreni, was exclusively on moral values and ethics, and adherence to it was strongly emphasized and followed. How do we work? The scholars often ask me, where do I get material? We have plenty of material. One of the most important sources, Jatak stories, 7th and 6th century BC. We have then from the early Dharma Sutras. And if you see the history of Dharma Shastra, we get a lot of insights for governance. How do we derive insights to integrate in modern governance practice, which dates back to 5th century BC to 3rd century BC. The most popular is Kautilya's Arthashastra, and Chanakya, the greatest economist, still his wisdom holds true, and we get lots of insight, and which led to the establishment of Maurya dynasty. And this is one of the area where we can talk that integrating spirituality into public administration. And Kautilya's model is one of the best model where Chandragupta Maurya implemented it, and we see the Maurya dynasty as one of the flourishing dynasties. If we see the diary of Vensang, and we find that how flourished it was during ancient time. Another source is early Dharma Sutra, 2nd century BC to 4th century AD. And within that, we can have Manu Samhita, Yagnavalaka Samhita, Institutes of Vishnu is another very important scriptures which gives us guidance how we can have the fundamental laws in good governance. From later Dharma Sutras, which dates back to 5th to 7th century AD, Narad Samhita is there, Brihaspati Sutra is there. You will be surprised to know that the joint stock company was functioning in ancient India. For illustration, merchants from many a kingdom came and all together met chose them a chief, and straight set out a treasure for to get. This is referred in Jataka 4, translated by Rosu. There are references are found in Jatak stories, Kautilya Archas, ancient Dharma Sutras, Narad Samhita, Brihaspati Sutra, Yajnavalkya Samhita. So the success of any joint stock business depends on the individuals that form the company. Clear injunctions for the selection of partners are laid down in Smritis. The relation of the individual to the corporate body was clearly laid down. So this is one of the very striking revelations from ancient Indian scriptures. Overseas business in ancient India. For illustration, the Valhasa Jataka says, talks about the story of 500 merchants with a chief at their head who chartered a vessel for trading in Ceylon. How advanced the overseas business was. The Pandara Jatak says, talks about, refers to chartering of a vessel by 500 trading folk. The Suparaka Jatak tells us about how 700 merchants got ready a ship and engaged a skipper, and the treasure that was gained in course of the voyage was divided amongst them. So overseas business was always there in India and dates back in its ancient period. So the glorious past, trade and commerce seemed to be in a flourishing condition as reported by various historians. Something like a modern chamber of commerce existed in northern India at some time, somewhere in Patliputra. We know the Magadha dynasty, and if we go through Chanakya and Kautilya's Arthashastra, that was what are the factors that led towards the development of trade and commerce in Patliputra, and we find reference of Chamber of Commerce that existed there. On behalf of ISOL Foundation, we have Vedic Foundation of Indian Management. We started initiative in 2012, first at Patanjali University in Gurugram, and from there we started the journey, and every year we have been doing one international conference on Vedic Foundation of Indian Management and a national conference on relevance of Vedic texts in modern management, leading to 2018 conference, World Congress on Vedic Foundations of Management Science, which was commemorating 125 years of Swami Vivekananda's Chicago lecture. These are our publications. This is the extreme right is the journal, which is international biannual journal, which has been there since 2013 till date. Some previous studies I would like to cite from during 2013 to 15. ICSSR sponsored research on the psychological and spiritual implications of meaning of work, insights from Indian folklores and folk tales. The focus was to examine the meaning of work as narrated in Indian folklores and tales. The essence of inquiry was to explore and understand the transcendental nature of work and its linkages to modern managerial practices. What I did in this study, I did the textual analysis of Hitopdesha, written by Narayan Pandit and published by Chokamba Prakashan, Panchtantra, written by Vishnu Sharma and published by Chokamba Prakashan, and Niti Shastra, written by Shukracharya Vidur and Bharati Hari and published by Chokamba Prakashan. Current ongoing research, ICSR sponsored a research project on Vedic Foundations of Indian Management, where we will be delivering 9 volumes. The focus of this research is we are trying to capture the essence that Vedic consciousness for enlightened management practices. Vedas are the sources of knowledge from ancient Indian wisdom. The Vedic principles are objective and supported by creative potential of natural law. It has universal application. So the Vedic foundation of Indian management in the current era will enable the managers to create new order of management based on ancient Indian wisdom. And you can see the sources, 32 scriptures are being studied to produce this 9 volume. Volume 1, Fundamentals of Education in Ancient India need to integrate in modern educational system. Volume 2, Classical Indian Epistemology for Modern Management Researches. Volume 3, Alternative Paradigms in Leadership and Strategic Management, Insights from Vedic Literature. Volume 4, Indigenous Models on Ethics in Business, Good Governance and Sustainable Development. Volume 5, Ayurveda, Yoga and Meditation for Modern Healthcare Management. Volume 6, Contribution to Vedic Wisdom by Women Philosophers. Volume 7, Aesthetics in Management, Contribution from Music, Theatre and Performing Art. Volume 8, Global Climate Change and Ecosystem Management, Insights from Vedas. And Volume 9, Vedic Traditions in Himalayan Culture, Understanding Indigenous Management. So these are the 9 volumes which are going on, work going on, and with the blessing of divine will be, bringing out next year. Some other research is ongoing. Insights from ancient Sanskrit scriptures for creating cognitive conscious intelligence. We have as well Center for Consciousness Studies, and which does conferences and researches by integrating mathematics, physics, and spirituality. So we talk about mathematics in Sanskrit, insights from Maharshi Pingala, focusing on Chandasutram and Adva Yoga. The philosophy of language, logic, and metaphysics, insights from Panini Ashtadhyaya. Rejuvenating Sanskrit to understand indigenous Indian management. Sanskrit is the biggest source, and if we want to develop Indian management, we have to dive deep into the Sanskrit literature and try to cull out what existed at that time. So the journey has started and miles to go. I need the cooperation and support of all the scholars who have faith in Indian culture and Vedic traditions in putting this vision into practice. Thank you very much. And developing Indian management for global implication, we need to dive deep through Sanskrit. So with this, I stop here, and I once again thank everyone for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that very concise and overview, Sunitha ji. Let us see if you have any questions.
No questions?
Yeah, not yet. Just a comment, Sunitha ji. Research on Vedic knowledge is inspiring and very interesting.
Oh, thank you. That's a compliment. Thank you. I wish more and more people come into this. And I say that for that, first you have to decolonize your mind. You have to accept your own culture, and you have to have faith in it. Without this, is not like any other academic discipline. This is which comes from within. It's our own culture. and it flourished. We have the data on that. We have everything. Takshila, Nalanda, the biggest ancient universities, and that produced scholars. So we have to have that passion to dive deep, and even a little bit, if we can do, that will justify our work.
Yeah, I feel probably as you already articulated, one of the biggest blocker for this is lack of awareness. And to be honest and accept my ignorance, I was not even aware of so many of the resources that you quoted today. And then the language barrier. So, I mean, we are created that impression English is needed for survival and for the breadwinning, and we lost track of Sanskrit. And not many people know that language, and not many can read the original sources.
Yes, I always tell my students, don't negate it without knowing. Once you know it and you feel that no, it does not have merit, then you negate it. But negating based on assumption, anything which is coming from West is good, anything from India is not good. That should not be there. Therefore, decolonizing the mind is the must. That is the first step. Once we decolonize, then we start thinking, if we see the syllabus of Nalanda and Takshila, how advanced it was, and how ancient it is. That is India. And we have to be a proud Indian. So thank you very much.
We got a couple of questions, Sunitha, just now. Let me read the first one. Hi, madam. Our ancient period was of great learning, where the country excelled in everything. Do you think our current condition is due to disunity among the Hindus and weakening of our spirit?
Yes, very true. Rig Veda says, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. Truth is one. This oneness was always the spirit of India, which for variety of reasons got distorted. We are a country where there is diversity, but unity in diversity is our strength. Our strength is our spirituality, and which got diverted for variety of reasons. And but I'm sure people will understand what it is leading to. So therefore, Sri Ramakrishna says, you have to be Manus, that is a good human being. Kabir also said, first be a good human being, then you be a true human being. So goodness is emphasized everywhere.
So the next question is, do we see any organization based on Indian management or a Vedic approach?
Yeah, we have this Vedic Foundation of Indian Management, and ISL Foundation is a humble initiative in this direction, where we try to integrate at two levels. One, spirituality as discussed in different faith traditions, and we integrate it with modern management practices. And second is where we try to go deep in ancient Indian wisdom and connect it with modern management practice. So isol.asia, you can go to the website, and since 2009, we have been working.
So we have one more question from Pran Nath Pandey. I want to work on environmental protection methods from ancient India. Could you please provide links for further communication with you, correspondence with you?
Sure. You can take my email ID, sunitha.sengupta@gmail.com. And when you send me a mail, I'll provide you some link to the material.
So one more question from Purushottam Sistla. Will you be open for others joining and collaborating in research in the areas of your interest?
Sure, I'm open to that. I'm looking forward to that.
And finally, one question from me, Sunitha ji. So where can anyone purchase or get a hold of the some of the publications that you had.
We have ISOL publication. When you visit ISOL website, isol.asia, we have ISOL publication where everything is listed.
Okay. Yeah. Once again, I really want to thank you, Sunitha ji, for that
My
very
pleasure.
concise
My
and
pleasure.
very enlightening
My
talk.
pleasure.
Uh,
Thank you.
I think there is one more question that just came up. This
Yeah.
is from Ramakrishna DV. People like me, where our base of Sanskrit is not good, the difficulty is to find authenticated source of knowledge. For examples, in market, we have so many Kautilya Arthashastra. So how do we go about this?
For Kautilya Arthashastra, the thing I'll refer is, see the 47 episodes of Chanakya, which was produced by Chandra Prakash Dwivedi, and which was produced after lots of research. So it has stories in it, but it has constructs also. It talks about how a king should behave, what a king should focus. So from there, one can, that is the easiest way. And then when you go, you read Chanakya Niti, where he talks about what should be the value system of a king, how a king should rule. And it says that the king, Praja is all, Raja is just a servant. So that mindset it talks about, and it's a wonderful way. So this is my suggestion. If you go like this, you will get into it slowly, and then you start reading.
And we have last one more question. Where do we find syllabus of Nalanda?
You have to search. When Sang's diary is one source where you will get. You will not get otherwise. When Sang in his diary, he mentions that. So you will get there.
That's all for today, Sunitha. Once again,
thank you.
I
Thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you. I look forward to more collaborations.
Sure, definitely. So for those who haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please subscribe and stay tuned for the further talks. Hari Om. That's it.